Madshot is a 2D roguelike shooter where you step into the boots of a vengeful, tentacled masked madman on a mission to take down an elder god. Madshot has just entered into early access, and the publisher was kind enough to shoot me over an early code to get my thoughts on the game. So today I will be descending into this animated side-scrolling world of madness and monsters to let you know if this is one journey worth your time, and potentially sanity.
The cosmos. On this grand stage, man fancies himself an actor.
It's hard to say exactly what Madshot is about, as the opening cutscene is a hair on the vague side. But from what I gathered, you play as some sort of aristocrat who has been experimenting with dark supernatural forces to obtain eternal life, likely to bring back a dead loved one. And to do so apparently means taking down an elder god. It's also very clear our main character is not quite all there, adorning a mask that resembles the main god on his hit list, the big bad Cthulhu. And good, who the hell wants to trek into a Lovecraftian nightmare world with some well-rounded, happy-go-lucky fella with no internal conflict? Not me, says I.
I will see them break.
Included in this early access release is access to the first 4 procedurally generated zones of the game, each comprised of numerous stages. The big piece of the game still missing is the final zone, or I assume the final zone, where you go head to head against big ol' tentacle face himself. Fret not though, despite being a work in progress, there's still a hell of a lot of game to enjoy here. So what's the gameplay loop? Well, after purchasing, upgrading, or equipping whatever you'll need in your mansion safe house, Madshot plops you into the first of its many stages, an arena of platforms, ropes, and throwables. Somewhat reminiscent of a Smash Bros. Stage, if you ask me. To advance, you must activate the portal, done so with the blood of your defeated enemies. Once you have enough blood, it opens in a slow-mo cathartic explosion, wiping out the remainder of the baddies. Ha! Neat. Stepping through the portal, you'll meet the randomly generated forking overworld map, where the player will choose their path. Some of the stages show their rewards for completing them. Stuff like health boosts, gold, which can be used to purchase items, you lose that when you die, purple swirling aether, the currency for upgrades, you keep that when you die, along with indicators for mini-bosses and other upgrades. I'm sure you've also noticed the question marks. Those can be revealed either through upgrade perks or limited scout points, which are found in combat. The ultimate goal is to reach the end boss, typically a horrible cosmic monstrosity, although there are some less monstrous foes in there as well. If you defeat the boss, you move on to the next zone, where the loop repeats, albeit with more complicated stages, tougher enemies, and tougher bosses. Some of you may be thinking, seems like a pretty straightforward, familiar roguelike structure. And it is. Not a whole lot of curveballs here, folks. But what makes Madshot fun are the same things that make any good roguelike fun. Its combat and the depth of its upgrade system. Combat in Madshot is highly acrobatic and hard-hitting. This is a game that wants you flying and flipping through the air, raining down bullets like you just saw the Matrix Code, and certainly revels in killing a stationary player. For defense, the player can roll through enemies, which does take some timing, seeing as your window of invulnerability with the roll is very, very slim. But getting the feel for it is key for the tougher one-on-ones. One satisfying thing is that you can pick up anything not nailed down and yeet them right at your enemies, their severed heads included. Along with that, you can also pick up the occasional sub-weapon, a giant sword, a rickety shield, and even something a little more elaborate. Mechanically, I think the devs hit the bullseye here. To put it plainly, Madshot just feels good to play. Movement is silky smooth, and the player has a lot of tight control in the air, and grabbing onto chains or snatching up items to chuck feels effortless. Shooting is rock solid and chunky, but your melee options are also great to use. I had just as much fun going through the game with a sword as I did pistols akimbo. This is one of those games where it's easy to pick up and get right into the action, which if you ask me is how any good roguelike should be, and the challenge is absolutely there. Madshot will wipe the floor with you, and there were definitely some overwhelming, frustrating battles. But I did feel the difficulty was fair, and the more I played and figured out the game's quirks, the better I got and more enabled I felt to take on the ever-increasing challenges. The bosses are also something to shout out. Each comes at the player with a litany of attacks, all designed to keep you moving. And you know what? It took quite a few rounds with these gargantuan good-for-nothings to really nail down the best practices to send them to hell. If I had complaints, it's that some of the bosses felt a bit too spongy, but then again, that can vary by your build. And I think the green ghost the alchemist spawns have too many health points. Yeah, I know that's specific, but it did annoy me a little whenever I encountered him. Of course, filling the Cthulhu hordes with bullets is only one piece of the puzzle. For every run, Madshot affords the player numerous ways to upgrade their character, boosting their stats and modifying their abilities, sometimes at a steep cost. Madshot's upgrades are known as transmutations. After the player earns these, they keep them throughout the game, able to equip and combine them with other transmutations to achieve their desired build. Transmutations can boost your stats such as health, attack speed, and attack range, but can also grant other perks like giving your attacks a chance to knock back foes or increasing your damage 10% for every room you clear without taking damage. Each transmutation can be upgraded with swirly purple aether earned in gameplay, which can also be used to purchase more slots to equip more of them. Transmutations can be earned by completing rites, which are essentially combat challenges. Some of these are pretty general, like killing a certain amount of enemies in a certain way. Others, though, are a little more particular, like completing encounters without jumping, healing your character up to 150 health points, or getting through the first zone in under 7 minutes. Completing rites can also reward new weapons. So yeah, there's something to prioritize, and I will say they can be a good motivator for progression. As you progress through your runs, you'll also earn alterations. These are temporary upgrades lost upon death that, like transmutations, can give stat boosts and perks. However, perks from alterations are more impactful on gameplay and can alter your playstyle quite a bit. Like adding toxic damage to your attacks, the ability to shoot through walls, an ethereal blade that will back you up, or an increase to your attack power for every 5 health points under your max. Oh yeah, they can get pretty specific, and there's a ton of them. In fact, even roughly a dozen hours into playing this game, I was still finding new alterations I had never seen before. And while many of the alterations aren't the flashiest things in the world, and sometimes have benefits so minor it's hard to notice the difference, because you can earn and combine so many of them, you truly can experience an impressive variety of builds. It does take a bit to get to that point though, and this can be a pretty grindy roguelike, although depending on the type of player you are, that's either a positive or a negative. That's not all. Items can be purchased during a run that can provide their own boost and modifiers, although they usually wear off after a couple of stages. Not to mention the people, mysterious items, or whatever the hell that is, that you encounter after completing stages, who can offer a variety of bonuses, but usually at the cost to your health or currencies. Piggybacking off of that, one thing I did appreciate about this game is that the player is often presented with choices when deciding what sorts of upgrades they want to take on, some sort of trade-off. For example, on one run, I ran across a perk that slashed half of my total health, but after that, any damage I took was limited to 4 health points. Another one boosted my attack power, but only if I was standing still. There's lots of examples of this kind of thing throughout the game. The other upgrade material to mention before I forget are Prima Materia, which are earned from defeating bosses. With Prima, you can buy new masks for your dude, each sporting a different special ability that can be activated during combat. Right now, there are only 3 masks to choose, one granting rapid bullets, another that freezes all enemies in place, and one that spawns dark tentacles, allowing you to move freely about the map. These abilities are cool, but damn, we could use some more of them, or something else to spend Prima on, because when you get into the groove of this game, you'll eventually earn enough Prima to buy these masks several times over. Hopefully in future updates we'll be getting some more. Also might be good to do a spell check on this game. All these elements working together make for a game where there's always some sort of surprise or discovery on every run. And when you combine this sprawling rogue system with the fun, twitchy combat, well, I gotta say, I got more addicted to this title than I expected. The combat got me hooked, but the progression kept me there into the wee hours of the night. Finally, let's touch on presentation. As you can tell at this point, Madshot is going for an animated comic book look, with a decent range of colors and some thick, inky line work. I have a suspicion the artist owns a respectable stack of Mike Mignola comics. Admittedly, it is a pretty familiar look, especially for a Lovecraft-themed game. In fact, it's hard not to compare it to 2016's Darkest Dungeon and its 2021 sequel, which both sport a similar art style. But that doesn't take away from the fact that Madshot is a well-illustrated game. In particular, I appreciated the wide variety of enemy designs ranging from your garden variety zombies to more horrific creatures from the cosmos. And some players might notice a few designs harkening to classic Lovecraftian horror flicks. If I had to get picky about a few things, I'd first point to the backgrounds. I appreciate the moving elements in the backgrounds and the intricate detail in some of the stages, but in general, the backgrounds just felt too devoid of detail and washed out. And I get why they're like that. The devs are trying to keep separation from the action and not distract the player, which is good, but I think they might have overcorrected, and I also think they can bring a little more out of these backgrounds. More detail and a little more going on. The color work is another thing, sometimes being a little too simplistic for my taste. Like I said, I'm being picky. While the color choices are right on, authentically giving that moody, eerie Lovecraft feel, I couldn't help but notice a lot of flat color with a slight gradient to give it some depth. And I suppose I just feel this can be pushed a little further, a little more tone and texture to it. If we compare to Darkest Dungeon, while subtle, you can notice bits of highlights painted in, some brushwork that adds some nice texture, and more range to the color tone to augment the lighting. And I think little touches like this would really benefit Madshot. Just a few more sprinkles on this cupcake. The music I'm a little on the fence about. It's far from bad, being a heavy metal soundtrack that does fit the action of this game. And I mean, how can it not? Guitar riffs and gunshots are a foolproof combination, like vanilla ice cream and chocolate sauce. For me, I guess the soundtrack just felt a little too similar to a lot of other gaming soundtracks out there, particularly within indie shooters. Now, I admit that might be partially a me thing since those are the games I play a ton and things do tend to blur together, but what I really think I was missing from this soundtrack was more of a Lovecraft feel. It really is just heavy, carnage-filled riffs. There's not much mystery or spookiness to it. And yeah, I do think something like that would help bolster the personality of this game. Now, to be fair, the fourth area does switch the music up to a more gothic tone that was definitely hitting in all the right spots for me, and perhaps this is a matter of me waiting for the rest of the score in the final release before I solidify this opinion. But at the moment, those are my feelings. Madshot doesn't do anything mind-blowingly different or new compared to other roguelikes on the market, but it is a solid title featuring a simple, fun, and addictive gameplay loop with some respectable depth. And even in this first early access build, there's a ton of gameplay to draw out of it. I put in over 20 hours reviewing this game and could easily squeeze more out. For a roguelike fan, this should hold their attention, but I can also see this being a great introduction for someone unfamiliar with the genre and are interested in it. Either way, Madshot gets my recommendation, and I am looking forward to seeing how it's updated on its early access journey. But that's it for me. What are your thoughts on Madshot? Be sure to let me know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, please be sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications on future uploads. It's a couple clicks for you and a massive help for this channel. And don't be shy, come say hi in the Kirk Collects Discord linked below, and be sure to peek my affiliate links. I'm Kirk, and thank you for watching this video. Stay safe out there.